Mate, first things first, thank you so much for coming down.
Pleasure.
Really, really appreciate it. I wanted to kick it off on, I know we briefly touched on it in the car on the way here, but your opinion on where the music industry is going, especially after the whole COVID situation.
Oh, man. I mean, Michael, who's the head of the Nighttime Industry Association, is always proactive in, hopefully getting what's going on. He's always on the, knows what's happening. I don't know. I think there's going to be some changes. Look, there's so many things now happening. The world's, so the cost of living crisis, they say, has gone up. So people are going to sort of prioritise what's important. I think the thing that, for me, what happened was, so this is about human behaviour again, right? So we're creatures of habit, as we discussed in the car. Generally, habits last 3 months-ish to change. So say for instance, if you were going on a gym program, they say they do 90 days, or so generally they say that's but that's generalising. That's not obviously people are individual. It takes time to change things if the environment's not correct, or whatever else is going on for them. So think about this. So you learn to live in a lockdown, actually locked down for 3 months or 4 months. Then you learn to live slightly locked down for another 4 months. Then you change your behaviours again. Then you learn to live in you don't know where you are. You're either locked down or not in 4 months, and you sort of half go out, half go in. So that whole 2 years was changing behaviours. And what I found was a lot of my, let's say people of my age who I've spoken to, is that during that time they realised that, spending time with the family and with the kids and with, the normal, let's say, normal is normal, but, in a standard sort of life is something they quite enjoyed. And, they didn't have the need. I think everyone was in a behaviour, and have been for like 30 years, about going out, because clubbing, it was like the life. So everyone thought, right, not just because I want to go to that next week. It's what are we doing next week? 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 So you get into the habit of going out.
I see. So it literally was like a habit of going out.
Well, it was, and everyone said, like, next Saturday's this, next Saturday's that, next Friday's this, next Friday's that, next Friday, all that sort of stuff. So everyone was, so automatically they're planning the week in advance after the week's finished, if that makes sense. So those behaviour cycles were broken, stopped.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, hold on, I've started doing different things for 2 years. Do I go back to the old, or maybe I just go once a month?
Yeah, do you think there's the difference has also been the raise of health and well-being as well? Because
absolutely. I mean, but there had to be. I mean, look, there was, as I said, again, my journey on that sort of path started before all that happened, and I was working for the NHS. I was doing outreach for multiple complex needs people, which means there's a range of complex needs: mental health, substance abuse, criminality, homelessness. There was 4 but a range of needs which had to be looked at to help them move on in their lives, and it was very stressful and very emotional, and I suffered burnout. I don't know if you've ever heard of burnout, but it's overstimulation basically. Is what the sort of terms is. So it's too much stimulus, so much going on all the time, and you just can't, and overwhelm. But then I realised I had to, and then I was offered to go into the Celebrity Big Brother house.
Cool, that's a bit of a curveball from the NHS.
So I was, they'd asked me to do Celebrity Big Brother many years before, quite a few times, and I'd always been pipped at the post if, you're in the mix, you're in the mix, you're in the mix. And like one where Bez just bit you to it, and then this one, like Dane Bowers beat you to the next one, blah, blah, blah. So they're all, so I just thought, what, if it comes off, it comes off. And it turns out that they said, yeah, we want you in this. So I was in that burnout when I went in the house. So I didn't know whether that person was the right one to be in there. Brandon, the old, lunatic, he's no longer in the building anyway. Don't want to be on telly anymore. Don't want to, I'm working with clients with confidentiality and boundaries and very withdrawn, and you've got to be careful about what you say and talk about. And then you're constantly, under scrutiny in the house because obviously it's cameras and you don't know what they're going to say. And you want to say about the job I used to do or what I've been working in, and people might hear that and go, oh, broken eye contact. But not that you mentioned names. But anyway, there was a lot of stuff going on. I was thinking about it, overthinking, and it just wasn't right for me at that time. So I left about 2 weeks before I should have done.
How long were you?
I think I was in there for 12 days, maybe a bit longer.
So did they invite you in as the old Brandon or as the Brandon that you were at that time?
I think they wanted old Brandon.
Did they?
Did you get a paycheck for it?
Not.
Did they give? I mean, like, what's the incentive for going in there? Do they give you?
Well, they pay you, but I mean, obviously, it's paid a pro rata, so I didn't get what I was initially offered.
Right, because you didn't last.
Because I left, and it wasn't voted off. Which and I mean, in the scheme of things, but that wasn't the thing. The psychologist for the show, turns out, he said, I'm a big fan of yours. I've been an old raver. And he said, I'd love to see you on it. He said, but I can't see you doing this to yourself on telly. He said, you're putting yourself through therapy on telly. It's not the right environment, really. So you can leave if you wish. So they arranged it. So, they obviously saw things that I didn't, and I was struggling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the preparation for going in?
Well, I didn't have any preparation. This is it, because I'd literally left the NHS because I was saying, look, can I come back to the job? And they said, well, look, obviously let's revisit it in 3 months, or let's revisit it when you come out. So I'm going in there thinking, what do I say? Can I talk about it? Because I may go back and I've still got people I'm working with, type thing. So the preparation was literally go and sit in a hotel room for 2 days in the dark.
Really?
Yeah, man.
It's a difficult situation to actually understand, if you know what I mean, Cal. Yeah. Because imagine going into a house where everyone's watching every move of yours, and anything you do which is not normal or not the normal is scrutinised and published on the actual programme. Also, I feel like, is it a bit of I know it's a TV show, but there's quite a lot it seems like there's a lot of acting going on in there. So a lot of people
everyone's in there for their own reasons, and it's a great experience. I was very grateful to be part of it. I've had that experience, and I was out, and as soon as I came out, I went back into. I realised that I needed to do work on myself, because the job in the NHS had impacted on me,
because you're taking on the emotional stress from the people.
So I was spiritually and emotionally drained. So I had to find my way back into a bit of a normality, which I did by attending I was always quite outspoken about my drug stuff years before, obviously, many years ago. But at that time it was stigmatised, because it was 96 was, no one even heard of half of it. And not only was it, not stuff you talk about, you just don't, but we were, and I did. I was in Mixed Mag, had an interview with me in Mixed Mag into treatment centre, where they talked about what was going on. That's because it was such a weird thing to happen, for people to be seen to be struggling with that stuff at that time.
It's taboo, wasn't it?
Say again? Taboo, yeah, it was. So, and what I realised was, but on that journey, which we could talk a little bit more about anyway, I'd learned a lot about myself and how I act emotionally, and what triggers me, and what trauma and what had gone on, and why I got to the place I did. But it's a learning journey, a journey of discovery, I like to call it. And then, so I went to a Tony Robbins. You heard of Tony Robbins?
I fucking love Tony Robbins.
Right. Okay, so I went to UPW, which is an event. I ended up meeting a lot of people from the music industry who'd gone on that journey. It was it's a great immersive event, that whole 3-4 days of yeah.
Did you walk through fire?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Done it 3 times. I've done it.
Nice.
I actually did a reality show about in 2009. I did it in Thailand before that as well, and it was a lot longer to walk. But yes, I did the fire walk. I met some really good friends at that world of personal development, let's say.
Do they have? I've heard this from a couple of people that have been. I don't know if it's true. Maybe you can, maybe you put your spin on it. But do they have a bit of a party, whilst they're, so you go to the event and then in the evening you have a bit of a party after?
I didn't No, don't forget, because I mean that would be a big party because there's like 20,000 people in there. So,
yeah.
So you'd have to invite everyone, wouldn't you? Couldn't leave anyone. Oh, sorry, I'm on the guest list. You can. I'm sure people do party, and at the end of it, there's like but there's always music in the thing. I did it on the back of that. I did a couple of events for people who were entrepreneurs, doing their own let's say their own financial or well-being or programs, workshops,
coaching programs,
exit coaching, right? So which I was asked to go and DJ at, which I did, and there were after parties. But with that world of personal development, there was only one thing I struggled with. My experience, I've always got for free. You know, my learning, my support from other people, the people I support. It's a community, and it's all about being having experiences or similar or an understanding. So I found that whole thing about people who are vulnerable going to these amazing events and going, oh yeah, fantastic, I can achieve such great things, and then that costing lots of money, $5
grand, $6 grand,
$7, $8 grand, yeah. The levels up and the upsell and all that stuff, and I struggled with that. So I thought of I struggled. I thought, God, I don't know how to get my head around this. So I didn't, and then I came up with a charity which is still running. We're in a rebranding phase at the moment, called Happy Days for Everyone, which is myself and a colleague I met, Michelle, who's my good friend. We met through a group in London called the Yes Group. The Yes Group is not affiliate, but a group based on Tony Robbins' ethos, theory about, being able to achieve anything you want, basically. And it was in London, and, like-minded people used to meet. And I got very involved with that at one period of time. And then I met the guy called Brian Main, who gave me his practitioner's course to be a goal mapping practitioner, which I am now, which I use. It's a fantastic model of being able to achieve all your goals.
What's your goals now then?
Do you know what? I've not done a goal map this year yet. I think most of my goals, I think it becomes, I was going to tell you in the car, this is what I'll talk about in a minute. I think subconsciously, I have a way of doing it now. So I can prioritise, I can see, once you command your subconscious to do that stuff, then it will do it. This is what goal mapping is about. It's like you look every day at something. So if you like, say, have a vision board.
We do, both of us.
Right. So the vision board has to have a route, or it can't just be a picture.
It's a journey.
Yes. You need to. So a lot of people, you hear about dream boards and vision boards, and you go, oh. And I remember, I can only liken it to the metaphor, not metaphor, but the sort of comparison is like, back in the day, the Cannonball Run, the film, there was a black Lamborghini Countach, which was like the car, way ahead of anything at this time in 1960, 70, I think it was. Beautiful. Go have a look at it online. It's like a spaceship. And it was in one in there, fast as hell. And everyone had the poster of the black Lamborghini Countach on the wall. But it's all very well having that. That's what I want. There's my dream house. There's my dream car. Your mind will go, okay, I see that. That's the vision. That's the dream. How do I get there? Without having a route to follow. This is why people struggle with dream boards. I mean, look, not everyone. I'm saying it's an easier way to learn by having a route to follow. So what goal mapping does is it uses the whole brain, whereas you're articulate, your learning bit, your reading, your arithmetic and all that stuff. But that's the articulate side, and then you've got your dream, your creative side, whereas so you can dream the picture, the visions. And it works. And I did, when I first did my goal mapping, I did 8 goals, and all of them I achieved within 8 months.
What were the 8? Or just a couple of them?
Well, at the time it was to lose some weight, which I did. It was the time to put on a music festival, which I did. At the time it was to create Happy Days, which I did. It was about involving myself in this whole new world, which I did. And about making, it was like I had this whole, I've got it somewhere, my old first goal map. But it was just because every day I looked at it, and without realising, after about 2, let's say, habit time, maybe like 3 months, you started doing it autonomously.
Matt, I've lived it. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was talking about the brain, right? How powerful it was in the car. I mean, whether this, it's a rap for this about time in the show. But anyway, if you think about this, your brain is your autonomous. It's your guidance system. It's everything. It runs everything, right? So it runs your physical stuff. It runs your mental stuff. It runs everything. So if you think your brain runs your heartbeat, your reactions, your breathing, your nervous system, all this stuff that it has to regulate or whatever. Think about when you can harness it, and that stuff's done autonomously. It's done on its own without you thinking about it. You don't have to worry about, am I going to breathe tomorrow? Is my heart going to beat tomorrow? God forbid it. It's all being well, but you don't have to be conscious of that. It's done subconsciously. Yeah. Like when you learn something over a period of time, driving, for instance, over so many years, you drive off and you don't have to remember all the time to put it in first gear or second gear, to change gear. A lot of that's done without thinking, yeah?
Subconsciously.
So imagine being able to harness that consciously and command. So we was talking about Joe Dispenza earlier, and I firmly believe that was my key changing moment, because I was saying to myself, why do I want so much drama in my life? Why do I have these really sort of strange episodes? And I realised it was because your body gets used to certain emotional attachments to experiences.
When you say strange episodes, what were
anxiety, but extreme anxiety, like not panic attacks as such, but thinking, overthinking, in a whirlwind of thinking, and which is overwhelming. A lot of people struggle with that, I'm sure, but it's creating that environment which is really cortisol, because we were saying earlier as well about how to be happy, let's say happy, or experience dopamine rush and serotonin mood stabilizing and be happy, serotonin, we have to experience things, right?
Yeah.
So if you skydive or you what's that other stuff? The paragliding, flying suits.
I can see you doing that, to be fair.
Yeah.
Flying suits, whatever it is, swimming, exercise, blah, 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 martial arts, MMA, whatever it does that increases lets your adrenaline, your dopamine, and gets you happy. But, you generally have to do something. It's not that something you can sit there and go, right, I'm just going to be happy and release dopamine and release it. You do something, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you think negatively, you can release cortisol because it's an instinctual. You can think of happy memories, tell a lie, and you'll be happy. Your serotonin levels you'll think better.
It's just being grateful, right?
Yeah, gratitude. You can feel if you can feel gratitude, that's the key, because it's a feeling. It's not just saying I am grateful. You have to feel grateful. You have to feel that you are. Just feel gracious. I'm actually feeling grateful that I'm in where I am now. Say, for instance, in environment.
Sam,
I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm living in Bournemouth. I'm grateful that I have the friends and the family and then everything around me. I'm grateful.
It's a hard feeling to attain, but do you think that you have to go through negative experiences to be able to?
Well, I think they're unavoidable, aren't they? It's how you perceive stuff. Negative experiences are something I've come to learn that are learning experiences.
Yeah.
So okay. So yes, that wasn't nice. It didn't feel pleasant. It was fearful. I was, instinctually we are creatures who either fear, flight, fight, and the world we live in is very tuned to us living in fear, unfortunately, because then if you live in fear, it boils down to the instant gratification we require to change that feeling. So we look for the Amazon, we look for the drugs, we look for the alcohol, look for the whatever else it is. Quick change. What happens quickly?
Even nowadays, like
state change,
TikTok.
Well, there you go. That's
flicking through. It's a state change. There
you go.
Every 3 seconds, next one.
And the other thing is, think about this, right? The young people who get mobile phones at a very early age see the red dot, the notifications. They knew what they were doing, and you create an addictive environment.
That's what the data scientists were for, though, right?
So
I'm curious. Obviously, you mentioned about fear. Then, what do you fear?
Do you know what? I've learned, I've got a great acronym for fear. Face it, embrace it, accept it, and replace it.
Yeah, I love it.
Right? So it's difficult because we are constantly bombarded with stuff that's supposed to, you know, we look at the world. And, you know, like though you watch animal programs, which are, you know, about the world and how, and you go, oh, it's lovely, escape for a bit. And then generally there's not lots of happy news.
No, there's actually like no happy news, really.
So because then
the news is bad for you.
Yeah,
genuinely is.
I don't, you know, I stopped doing that a long time ago as well because it's not great, and, you know, and life's stressful enough without being bombarded every day with, you know. So listen to a nice podcast is nice. Listen to empowering, you know, speeches is nice. And going back to Joe Dispenza, changing your internal environment by meditating, or, you know, Wim Hof breathing is great. And you can do it easily. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to be anywhere. You don't have to buy anything. You can just breathe. So I don't know if we've done a lot of off.
No, don't worry about that. That's what it's about.
I mean, even the subject is. So I mean, yeah. There's lots of stuff I've been sort of learning, but I think you need to. I mean, for me, I know I need to take some time out. I can't, you know, like that whole 5-hour rule, 5 a.m. club and all that. I think, great. What's the end goal?
It's too much, the 5 a.m. club.
Yeah.
I've tried it. It's far too much. But just to pull back, what is it that you fear? What do I fear? I fear normal human error stuff. Driving, be careful, don't drive fast, all that's normal. You know, I think I've become a real concerned person about it. I fear now that the human race is gone beyond help. You know, I really look at the world and think, God, what a waste, man. These beautiful animals which are being exterminated and their environment, their habitat ruined, and they're not going to survive.
Yeah, that is horrible. It's
horrible. I mean, look at it. Look what we've lost already, and, you know, species are becoming extinct at a rate of knots. And you look at what we've had in this world of colour and I just think, oh man.
I think the worst thing about the species going extinct as well is usually it's for monetary profit.
Well, and most of it is, isn't it? You know, I think
everything comes down to profit, like literally everything.
I mean, because but that's because we've had to learn to live with money, haven't we? To buy things, to have things, to survive.
Did you need it, which is the worst thing?
I mean, could you if you had survival skills, you could probably live off the land, as we did, and we learnt that. We just constantly getting stimulated and searching for more inventions and searching for more, you know, which we can do because this is the species we are.
Yeah, I'm interested. Let's pull it back. So, where were you actually born?
I was born in Hackney, East London.
And what was it like growing up in Hackney?
I didn't grow up in Hackney. I grew up in Wembley, which I loved. I had a fantastic time growing up, and I grew up in the 80s, which I absolutely loved. And I talk about this with my mates all the time. We loved the 80s music. There were so many different music genres is the word, isn't it? But no, that was so cultures, let's say, music whole culture. So at one point, and I was watching an episode of Top of the Pops, which I was on once, by the way. I had a number 3 hit.
Did
Top
you?
Of the Pops, probably before your time.
I was about to say Top of the Pops was just before our time.
Before your time, but it was the program. That was our music program.
That's so strange, isn't it? Like to think that like Top of the Pops was like, and my mum talks about it, I'm not gonna lie, how like Top of the Pops was like the focal point for the UK music industry.
And that was it. Every week, Thursday night, 7:00, we were there. And then you had the chart show on a radio on a Sunday, the top 40, and you used to record it and pause with your tape machine, pause between the gaps. When there was an advert or the DJ was talking, you'd be paused between the gaps, so you have a continuous, not mix, but continuous playlist of top 40 tracks. But we were so lucky. I mean, look, we're lucky musically now because technology's allowed it to be adapted and made, and but we were so lucky. And I was saying that watching an episode of Top of the Pops, back in, I think it was 1989 or might have been 89. And it was one of those. It was like this year in 1989. There was, I think it was 9 different musical genres in the top 10.
Wow.
So ballads, love songs, rock songs, house music, dance music, R&B, punk, soul, funk, disco, ska, two-tone, everything. You know, new romantic, 80s, Britpop. Oh man, it was just all different types of music, you know, and pop music, and you know, all recording artists. All, don't forget, all the music was live. It wasn't Leslie electronic at that time. It was starting to break through electronic music. So you know, very fortunate growing up in the 80s. I loved it, and you know, we have such fond memories. But you know, looking back, I'm very grateful for. I'm grateful to be alive, obviously, but because I very nearly wasn't. But what a place to grow up in, and what an experience to have. You know, technology and music, fashion, arts. This where we are now.
Yeah,
being the mental health awareness balloon that's now, you know, full of hot air and taking off so the world can see it.
Yeah, it's amazing for a lot of people. But just jump back on those the times in the 80s. You obviously you're DJ, and you mentioned a lot about music. When were you first exposed to music, and how did you even get into it?
Oh, right. So here's a lovely story, right? This happened the other week. So I used to roller skate a lot. I was a good roller skater.
Roller skating was really popular.
Yeah,
wasn't
man.
there
It was just after roller.
No, Jack. Honestly,
Weird hobby, mate.
My
it's a random one.
My stepmom tells me about it, that they used to have roller skating parties. So you'd have like, she calls them discos, roller discos.
Roller discos. And so this is actually what brings it to me. So back in the day, we had our bowers. We used to roller skate in the skate parks on the back of skateboarding, right? So basically, someone come up with the idea that roller skates were around before skateboards, but then they adapted them, made them all modern, and all the polyurethane wheels, and it was trucks and bearings. And cool. So I used to be a really good roller skater, and there was a group of us, and we used to go to the skate parks, do 180s, 360s, backflips, all this stuff, like really cool stuff. And it's never sort of gone away properly. So recently, and I have a radio show on My Soul Radio, which is the big London radio station. It used to be Kiss. So Gordon Mack, who's my boss, used to own Kiss FM before he sold it to and became, a national radio station like it was. So My Soul is very, very, it's a very cool radio station as well. And so I'm on there. And so he got asked to do the roller disco in Harrow, which is where I grew up. I was going to say I moved from Wembley to Harrow. So I used to roller skate in the roller disco in Harrow when I was 16, 15, 13, 14. And we was asked to DJ it now, and I'm 40 and I've put weight on. I've got my skates in the car. And I went round a couple of times, like, oh my God. And I still see some of my old mates. So this is the story about music. How I was first introduced to, let's say, dance music or my career. So I was roller skating round the rink before I went on the decks. And this guy came up to me, and he said, Brandon. I went, yes. He said, I met you your first day at secondary school. And I went, my God, Yemi Abby Diwali. And he went, you remember? I said, mate, you were my protector. Because I got bullied first day at school. I had a briefcase. What an idiot. Like, go to state school. That mum take me to the briefcase. I said, what the fucking briefcase? Take it. I said, so you walk in.
She gave you a briefcase on the first day. You must have got it.
I was like one of the only Jews as well in the school, which, and I'm not necessarily religious, but, at the time, and at the time it was like a cultural thing, so I'd get bullied, and I found Yemi, and a big African guy, and he said, come here, you. He looked after me, the best robotic dancer in school, right? And I said, oh my God, Yemi, and I hadn't seen him since school, literally, like, I think even we lost touch after the first year, let's say, but I remember him, and I said, I talk about you in interviews and how you saved my sort of life at school and made it okay to be there for the first thing. So there was a lunchtime disco at school. I was 11, 12. So he sneaked me in because it was only for the 13-year-olds, like year 3 and up. So I went into the lunchtime disco, and that's where I met all my pals, who are still my pals to this day, right? And they were the slightly older 4th and 5th years, all jazz funk dancing, soul dancing. You know, like the shuffles the kids do now. The rave shuffle, I think it's called. It's really good. But I love watching it because it reminds me of what we used to do back in them days. But it was like, but anyway, so, and I got in with them and I started learning how to dance and I knew my disco music and I love my, that was how my love of dance music happened. And I was 13, I started buying music and I got into, obviously I met a lot of my mates, as I said, the mates I'm with now, who are still my friends after 50 years, 45 years.
When you met Yemi, did you tell him that he was pinnacle to like the start of
he was like,
what?
Well, he's 60, I suppose now, 57, 58, and he was like, I couldn't even believe it. I remembered him. And I looked at him and I said, Yemi, and he went, my God, you remember that?
Must have been such a beautiful moment.
Well, I was crying.
Yeah,
I started getting some tears in my eyes because I was trying to explain to my mates behind the decks. Ricky Morrison, who's another fantastic DJ and very great prolific music producer. Didn't you read the song, The South Soul Nugget?
No.
If you wanna hit the road and it's been all smooth and nice. If you want, ding 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 ding. Anyway, you'll know it when you hear it. It's one of those. He made that, and we was also part of Blockstar, which was my number 3 hit. We had "You Should Be Dancing" by the Bee Gees, and I was behind Westlife and Spice Girls.
Oh, nice.
Mad. Yeah, that's mad.
Number 3 in the charts. Can you imagine that? And I was on Top of the Pops doing the DJ behind the decks bit. Anyway, so I was saying to Ricky that story about Yemi, because Yemi was right skating around in front of us. I was going,
that's him. Yeah.
Yemi. And he went, oh my God. And even he started welling up. He said, what a lovely story. And I had always thought, wow, I never thought I saw Yemi again. Anyway, to see him was just wonderful. It gives you a lump in my throat because he looked after me, like, and if it wasn't for him, my life would have been very different.
It's weird, isn't it, Cal, when you like think of pivotal people in your life that probably don't know how much of an impact they've had on you.
Yeah, as well as like specific moments in your life as well. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh God, sorry. Something just came back to me about Yemi, because when he said to me this time I saw him, he said, "You remember, you and me were both." What's the word? He didn't use the word ostracised, but we were both picked on at school. Although he was older than me, he was again.
Oh, he'd been through it.
He'd been through it as well.
Oh, so do you think that might have played a part in him almost taking you under his wing?
Yeah,
possibly.
Course,
a bit of synergy, a bit of
That's lovely.
serendipity. And I was. Those moments make your life worth. That back then,
human connection's amazing.
Human connection. You can imagine him seeing me struggle at that time, going, you know what, I've been there. I've had it here, and I've got through it, and I'm.
That is what life's about, right?
And it's literally, come here, mate.
Yeah,
you're all right.
You're
all right.
Yeah.
And then I think what happened to me was, then I thought, well, I'm going to have to be the maddest bastard in the world.
Do you think that's where it started?
Yeah, the mask, the old crazy nutter. So it started. No, it probably did start around then. I mean, obviously, my parents had got divorced. It was I was the only child. It was a bit. It was quite traumatic, I would imagine, at the time. Don't remember that, but could I put it down to that? I'm not going to blame that stuff, but something triggered, which meant me being crazy.
So how does that roll out? So you 13, 14, introduced to disco music. Sorry,
how
12,
roll
13.
Out? Go and immerse yourself in go and. Excuse me.
Yeah, no worries.
Here's another story. So I was quite, I suppose the word gregarious. I was quite outgoing. I became quite outgoing. I'm not.
Is this at like sort of just after you met Yemi?
This is after Yemi, and I started going, you know what, they're cool. They're the cool lads. I'm going to go and be with them. And I one of my mates who is another great dancer, one of that little soul patrol, we call them, the funkers. He said, I remember I was walking down a common room house corridor, and I get a pull on the back of my blazer, and I look round and I can't see anyone. And I look down and there's you going, hello mate, I'm Brandon. I think you're the nuts, I love the way you dance and all that. You sort of like, what can I do with this cheeky bugger? So again, another one said, well, we play football down the park. The park happened to be at the end of my road. We play football on Wednesday nights, kind of pumped down. So I went down and met them all. They sort of, and then it was from school to the pub, at which point we were all, pretty close friends. And then obviously my music.
So let's obviously at school, what happens after school? You mentioned about going to the pub and that, but like what's the plan at that point? Is it to be a DJ, or is it anything
School
to do with
wasn't,
music?
this brings me to another sort of awareness point or something I think I've sort of discovered. ADHD, right? Or ADD. Yes, it's a thing. We know it's a thing because so many people, it's a label. They like to label stuff.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a label. I think a lot of people experience the symptoms of it.
Yeah, of course.
If you experience one of the symptoms, I think a lot of people...
Labels are great if it gives you some peace around what you're struggling with, because we're very complex animals, right?
Very true.
So we need, we sometimes there's stuff that goes on for us and we think, God, what's going on? Why am I feeling like this? I don't know what's going on here, and I wish I knew type of thing. And we get... the world we get overwhelmed in is our struggles, but I was thinking so there are school reports where I was like, if only he concentrated, could do so much better. He's a clever boy. He's not. I had a great IQ when I was. I don't know if it changes or not. I was like nearly Mensa level, but he's great. Oh, you know what it was? It's just maybe I just wasn't interested in what you were telling me. I prefer to look out the window and see nature, and at school and climb on the roofs, and
the world's so much more interesting than a maths lesson.
But there's you have this. So that for me, I knew that concentration wasn't one of my best assets. Sorry, I've lost track.
So where did that take you after school? Because you leave at 16.
That's right. Yeah, no, I left at 16.
Yeah,
I literally drew. In my art exam, I ate my still life. My apple, which I was meant to be drawing, I thought. I ate that and walked out, left the core there. I wrote my name on the gym floor and said, was here, and then left. I climbed out in my graphic design exam, I climbed out the window while the exam was in process. The teacher had his back to us, and I climbed out the window and ran off and just did my stuff. So, and then quickly went and got my skates on again and my music, and left, and I'm not saying that's what anyone should do now. That was just my experience of school. I love school though. I mean, I think I love the environment of people.
It's the companionship, having your friends,
of course,
being with
that whole support network thing is great, and it's learning to live alongside your fellow human and stuff. But I think that's after school. That's what it led me to. Then the pub. I mean, I'd also had drinking parties earlier. A lot of people did in our age. I did before we knew the downside of drinking and stuff, and how too much can be really bad for you. But we used to, I mean, that was my progression.
So what did you go into work after that?
I started doing various little jobs at YTS. I started on the YTS scheme, which was a youth training scheme. I don't know if they're still around now. It's like a cheap apprenticeship. And I worked for Burton's. Burton's, the clothes
clothing
shop.
brand. Yeah.
Fucking hell, they must be. They've been about for some time.
Well, it used to be the Burton Group, right? So they owned Miss Selfridge, they owned Topshop,
okay.
Top Man, Dorothy Perkins. It was a huge group. There was a Arcadius group. Now Philip Green, the guy who ended up buying it all. Anyway, long story short, I got a sack from that job. I'm not going to say what it is now, but it was a silly thing. Anyway, I got a sack from that job, and then on the train home from that job, I walked into a employment agency. Would you believe? No, I walked into the pub, of course, after work, and it was my local pub, and my mate's girlfriend used to run a thing called an employment agency, which is actually an old word for a recruitment consultant, right? There were many employment agencies around at that time. That was a thing, whereas recruitment's now a more modern approach and headhunted and know. But I went to do, and the job was an interviewer, so I used to give people. They'd bring you CV. Excuse me, that's got to cut out.
No, we'll leave that in.
So we used to interview people's staff for jobs and then match them up with the right jobs and temporary workers and permanent jobs. I loved that for a while, but then my other life, my music and partying started to encroach on the normal work.
So were you DJing at that time as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I used to work at the local pub. Me and my best mate Ali, we were partners DJing. Yeah, this is one for you. So this is for irony. So for those of you listening to this podcast, we may touch on my behaviour stuff.
We're definitely going to touch on it.
Okay. So basically, 1985, I've still got a business card. Our mobile disco was called Ecstacy Disco.
Nice.
So well before any knowledge of anything else went on, and so we used to go. We started in the local pub. The local DJ, didn't turn up.
Is this your first gig? How it came about?
Yeah, first gig. We was in there all the time. Obviously, all of us. So we was always buying our import records and our soul and hip hop and disco. And the guy, the owner of the pub, Den, who's our Den and Edie, a proper East End name. He said, look, he ain't turned up. You lot have got your records. Go and get play some tunes because there's loads of people coming tonight. So we went home. We got our milk crates of records. They had the decks already there, which were old garage turntables, belt driven. So we went and we just played records. I mean, there was no mixing, but it was just great fun. We tried to do but it was just about playing records. And
What was that like? Obviously, first event, being a heavy music head at that point. Was it like a pinnacle moment where you were like...
Pinnacle, man. Yeah. It was incredible.
And fucking hell, I want to do this full time.
Well, it was just playing records that you loved to all your mates, and everyone's going, yeah. And thinking, oh my God, this is great. So we said, right, we'll do that. And he said, look, we'll get rid of the other fella. You may as well do it every week. So he ended up paying us like a tenner each. And we did it every week, and we just loved it. And then we invested in our own kit. I got my first hire purchase Tandy account. You won't have heard of Tandy, but everyone who's over the age of 50 would have heard of Tandy. So Tandy was like the Dixon's, but cheaper version.
I don't even know what Dixon's is, I'll be honest with you.
You don't know Dixon's either? Well, Dixon's is the shop that in the duty free. It used to be they ain't got Dixon's anymore on the high street.
No.
All right, so PC World, Curry's.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Dixon's used to be them.
Yeah.
Many years ago, I think, if I'm right. I think they got all bought out. So, yeah, it was. So, imagine the early ones called Dixon's. So, anyway, Tandy's was a cheaper version of that. So, we bought speakers, amplifier, decks, blah, 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 all on hire purchase. I signed up for my first hire purchase agreement.
Bit of credit.
What a bloody mistake. You know what that is now. Financial. God, dear. Anyway. Oh, this is good. I can do it anywhere. Sign up.
I think that's what fucking everyone does.
Oh, mate, I got so into debt in the first... I mean, my bank manager was really... Because I was cashing checks at the pub like there's no tomorrow. First month for the bank account and, like, real wages, I went £600 overdrawn. And this is 40 years ago. Yeah. So you can imagine my bank manager called me straight up. He went, come in, you. You can't keep cashing checks where you ain't got any money. Oh, they're all right. No, not them. It's me. I'm not all right with it. So I ended up having... to pay off a loan for my first month's wages in my bank account from being so much overdrawn. I had to drop a loan thing, which I managed to get paid off. But yeah, so hire purchase. If you can avoid it, don't do it. So yeah, and then after that, mate, it was just like the pub group said, "Oh, you're doing well down there. We want them lot to come round to us and do some stuff." So we ended up doing a few nights in the week. We bought a BT van, a little yellow BT van, which we used to put our gear in.
The Ecstasy, is this the Ecstasy
It's
event?
the Ecstasy disco, the mobile disco. And we used to go down to various pubs and just play music. It was fantastic. It was really good. It's such fun memories. I'm thinking about it and talking about it now just brings back how fun it was. Yeah, it was really good.
So was this almost like your, obviously this was your passion at that time. Were you getting paid for it at this time?
Yeah, but, not loads. We did it because we loved doing it. It wasn't about necessarily money. I don't think it's become what it is, but I don't think it was ever about... I don't think I've ever been great with money, to be honest. I don't think, so it's a thing, isn't it? You are a money person. That could be your vocation in life, to learn about money and how it works. And, people like Warren Buffett and, all those mega... investors know how it works, like Rich Man Poor, Rich Dad Poor, Robert
Kiyosaki.
Yeah, I mean, and Tony Robbins. I mean, for instance, they're all mega businessmen, aren't they? I suppose they know how to work the money markets and stuff like that. But it was great fun. Yeah, we got paid, but it wasn't a lot, and it was just we just loved the whole experience of driving to different parts of London and having to, think about it, you set your gear up, you make people dance, play some tunes you love, and you play the new records you love, and everyone just start, yeah. You play for a few hours, and you go home and you think, I've had a great night. How fantastic.
Yeah, no, to be honest with you, I can almost attribute it to what we do, Jack, with the podcast. It's like we travel together sometimes, we take our equipment with us.
It's not about the money, is it?
It's not about the money, it's about the experience that we have.
It's about doing it, yeah, and you're doing well, and I can see you're passionate and you enjoy doing what you're doing, and it's lovely to see, and why not?
Appreciate that. Yeah. But how long did these events go on for, the Ecstacy events? How long were you travelling around London for?
How long did that last? We did that for, I don't know, three or 4 years. And then Clubland opened up its doors to me and Ali also, because Ali we ended up working together in different various, not DJing necessarily. I carried on with the DJ, and Ali became, basically had the biggest security firm. So the way it worked out, and we ran clubs together for many, many years. We're still our best pals, and we still run clubs together now. That's 40 years, man. Wow. Great.
Stint. It is a stint, to be fair.
Well, it's a lifetime.
Yeah, it is. It genuinely
40 years is a lifetime. I'm so, I'm sitting here with gratitude, and I'm thinking, God, I've still got all my mates who I grew up with from that special time in the 80s.
Yeah. You can't beat your day ones, mate.
Yeah.
You can't. You just can't build that rapport with someone new when you've got 20 years or 15 years or 10 years under your belt with someone else.
I get that, but I think tools you have now enable you to weed out and find the good ones.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you read a lot of the stuff you read about looking after yourself will say you can't have negative people in your life, and it makes sense because if you take stuff personally, which you don't. Have you heard of the 4 Agreements?
I haven't. No.
Have a listen to that little book, audio book, or read it. It's just fantastic. It's like Paulo Coelho, the alchemist.
In fact, that's probably one of my favourite books.
Okay, so it's the guy. It's a South America. I think it's a Totep Indian. So it's South American Indian, like Mayan or Aztec cultural going back learning. So I think the 4 agreements are: always do your best, have integrity. So be honourable with your word. Don't gossip, and don't take things personally.
That's all you really need, right?
Not else you can.
Yeah.
If you don't take things personally and don't listen to people and just think, well, And what I've learned is that if they're saying stuff which is negative towards you, it's probably their stuff.
Yeah, it's just portraying themselves, and also like the stuff that they're saying to you is only their perception of it as well.
Exactly, it's the way they see things.
Perceptions.
And exactly, and like I don't know if this is a random conversation. I'm hoping you're all right with the way it's...
Mate, this is what the podcast's about, bro.
So, people say about perfection, right? And I'm going, well, hold on a minute. Where's your... So I came up with another little strap line. The wrong perception of perfection. Right? What is your perfect? And who says that it is perfect that way?
It's true.
What's wrong with saying, well, I think my way's perfect if it works, and it maybe it looks different to yours, but what makes that perfect? And who's the judge of that? Where does that come from? How many years back have you, at what point did that become perfection? Like, say, for instance, I don't know, for an example, a fashion item. Let's just say, oh, that's perfect. The fashion designers, that's perfect. I don't think so. Well, what's not perfect about it? What is perfect about it? Well, I think because it's got these. But who said before that's perfection of that particular? It's an argument. It's probably me being a bit pedantic, but it's like.
No, I think you're right. I think.
How can you be perfect in a world where what is perfect?
There's so many different types of being perfect, and it's all individualized as well, and subjective to the person and the experiences that they've had and the things they've been through. And,
that whole thing about, let's talk about social media, which is becoming, we know there's so many conversations about it now, about how it impacts it has on people's mental health, right? Because of the world of comparisons we live in, the world of expectations we live in, the world of not being good enough, which is, you compare yourself, think, if I don't have that or don't look like that, then I'm not good enough.
It's almost like they're forcing the perfect world down your throat, what you should be like.
What you should be like. And this is why people, here's another key word, your authentic self. How can you be your authentic self when you're aspiring to live like someone else? But I'm talking about looking like someone else. I'm not saying aspiring to be Richard Branson or, Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or someone who's...
Don't think anyone wants to be Bill Gates, by the way.
Well, for example, you're right. But look, I'm saying, but this is how do we measure success? Is it financial? How happy are they?
Yeah.
It comes down to like personal interpretation, right? And like what you perceive as success.
This is why I don't use social media a lot anymore. I mean, Instagram I get, TikTok I don't get it. I really don't. Someone's talked to me about Vine the other day, and Vine was a short video thing that used to be around. And
I remember Vine.
I never used it.
I never used it, but I remember it.
But now TikTok is... I don't get it.
I personally have actually never used TikTok.
So I don't know what it means. It's a short version of
just short form content.
So it's a quick fix of something.
Yeah, I think like that.
So it's good for the scrollers.
Like
is that what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, I did actually watch a documentary on how they'd based the TikTok algorithm on basically the same variables that are in gambling. So like the roulette table and stuff like that.
Right.
But
so
I wouldn't be able to do it justice because
it needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I only watched a video on it and I don't really have like the keys to it. But yeah, it's basically just short form video content and it's chance what you get next, and obviously the algorithm takes into interpretation of what you like.
A bit like a
roulette table,
or what do you call it? The thingy?
Slot machine.
Slot machine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so
same principles.
A quick fix. Right. I'm glad you told me that because now I'm sort of getting an idea. Anyway, I don't personally think I need it. I don't want to be part of that. It's just not something that I don't want to sit on. Look.
You can use social media for good purposes and bad purposes.
There should be lessons taught in school. There's not only should there be learning university college, and I'm working with Bournemouth University. There's a thing I'm going to invite you both to as well. This guy I'm working with, Lane, who's got a night of a rising 300. You know the 300 film with Gerard Butler. They're all like you,
Spartans. I'll take that as a compliment.
Not me.
Jack's buzzed off that.
I'm more like
seriously, dude.
I'm more like the old Mr. Superbad. So it's a night of a rising men's group, right? About all walks of life. And it's at Bournemouth University. It's on 28th of April. I'm doing a little talk about, which we'll talk about in a minute, my habit, how I changed my habit, like by a decision, a powerful decision with intention, which we'll talk about. So it's literally all walks of life, men be able to share, and after the after effect will be creating a community where there's events, there's that people do. It's not rocket science, but it's about doing it and getting it done. Outdoor activities, martial arts, whatever it is, building a community where we can in the locality where there's something to do. It's not just like where you don't get left behind again. Like we're saying, like. I'm going back, I digress. We're talking about the personal development stuff where the programs, you were talking about the money. When you're vulnerable and you're feeling overwhelmed with life and you think, right, so you can't, I've always, this is only my experience. I don't think I'm great at setting goals when I'm in a negative place. Because generally I don't achieve them and generally I beat myself up and go, you're not good enough. It's not going to work, you haven't done it. Instead of thinking, what's the word we use in goal mapping? Oh, it's gone. Response-able. Break that word down. Not responsible. Response-able. Able to respond. Make sense?
Yeah.
Great word. So I'm responsible, and I'm also response-able. I'm able to respond. So the responsibility is mine to change, but having the tools to be able to say, right, I'm able to respond to that change by looking outside of what's in front of me.
And that's what the community is going to offer to...
Yeah, and I think it's about change. It's about dealing with dealing with what's going on for us now. And I was asked during the... I'm not going back to the pandemic, but it's because it's relevant. I was asked by a lot of my friends who are building companies to come and do talks about mental health because a lot of men were taking their own lives during that time.
What, on a building site? Yeah, building site's the worst for it. It's a very egotistical place to build on site because it's just full of men who are, there's like a weird social structure on a building site as well. You've got people at the top of the building site and down, and they treat the people at the bottom the worst. So mental health is actually a massive thing in it. And there is a big awareness coming through with it as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, there was also this company I did some work with, my mate Neil Shah, who's got a company called the Stress Management Organisation, right? And what he does is, and he saw, this has been going a long time as well, not just about, not just the last few years, it's been going for a few years, and it's like, so you go into a company at board level, and you say, right, let's do an audit of your company and why the production, you see, now we know that, the stress and overwhelm of putting targets and expectations on the workforce makes it harder for them to work. So they're not achieving the results they want, the productivity and the targets they want reached are not being achieved because they're just stressed out to do the work. It's what I mean. As opposed to working from home at your own steam, but getting it done.
Yeah, but it's also the flip side to that, because when people work from home, they toss it off.
Yeah.
Which does happen, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, there are extremes. Obviously, it's different. We're humans, aren't we? People are different. But generally, the production thing about, we want these targets, they're not achieved, they're not good enough, they've got this, blah, 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 but I can't achieve it because I'm overwhelmed. I've got too much going on. So it's about inclusivity, it's about reaching out to your fellow worker and saying, can I, there's lots of aspects of this program, like saying, I would love to be able to help you out on this. I can't do physically, I haven't got it in me to do this. And different levels of the board, or let's say go down from the board, it comes to shareholders, then it comes from shareholders to management, middle management, top management, blah, 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 workforce, this is it. So the stress comes from money or targets or output, and it goes down to the management, and blah, blah. You see how it transcends, and then so you address each level of workplace stress. How makes sense?
No, you did. It does.
It does. Yeah, no, it does make sense. It's just, I think it's very dependent on industry and the business itself, because it's just so generic that it's difficult.
Of course, it's generic.
I can imagine the principles of it would work in any business, providing they were delivered in line with that business's practices.
They have to adapt it for that business. So we know that if you're in the building trade, we know that cost of materials has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
If you're in the retail food sector, food's gone up.
Yeah.
Everything's gone up. And you have to manage, so for instance, if you have to wait for China to deliver your cabinets and the ships ain't arriving on time, you have to manage people's expectations, management, of the cost of how to store or how to put the job on. It's all that whole stuff now, isn't it?
It's a lot.
Do you know what I mean? It starts on one little thing that happens and it roller coasters into...
The domino effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I just want to actually jump back. So you were telling us about your XD events and how you were doing it for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
What happened from that, off the back of it?
So basically I found nightclubs, Ecstacy.
So was this the sort of first time?
I was completely anti drugs of any sort, because I was very young, and someone in my family gave me a joint when I was a kid, and it was very strong at the time, and I had the worst experience of my life, and I thought, never again, right? Moving forward, my experiential mind goes, oh, you know what? I can see everyone having a right laugh here. I might try it anyway. As they say, the rest is history. But on the back of that, then my thirst for partying, my thirst for having fun, and I don't think it was anything at the time. It wasn't anything. I was, I didn't thrive to get to the place where where I ended up. Right, there wasn't my intention to be. And if I had one regret in my life, I wish that I'd not been as ill or made myself as ill as I did.
Yeah.
Because my drug use took me to an incredible existence on drugs. I was living on drugs. It was horrible for months and months and months. And at the end of it was like months, and I was dying physically. And because I had many illnesses, I had TB, I had hepatitis, I had all this stuff, which I'm cured now. I'm very well and healthy, thank God. But it was just many years ago, and I was literally, my body was giving up. I was self-medicating, but my body was not able to even function through that.
And this was off the back of all the partying, all the drugs,
everything else.
What drugs are we talking about? Just E's or
not everything?
Okay,
acid, LSD, cocaine was the main one. That ended up being my drug of choice, they call it. I was taking so much of that crap.
How much is so much?
Oh, yeah. approximately 20 grams a day.
20 grams a day?
Around that. It was a constant, mate. It was like, I can't describe it. It was horrendous. And I think about it now and I think, God, that's all I did.
You must have just been racking up.
That's all I did. All day. It was like going from one to the other, going to getting more. And that was my routine. That's the structure.
How is that even like funded? Do you know what I mean? How can you afford that many bags? Is it because you're a DJ?
I was doing well at the DJing.
Do you get free stuff as well when you're DJing?
Yeah, all that stuff. It was an existence. And I'm really, it's horrible to be in that existence.
20 bags a day is mad, by the way. That. No wonder your body was shutting down.
Yeah, exactly. And my mind, because don't forget it's a stimulant. Yeah. So it was like being plugged into an electric socket all day long.
So whereabouts were you living at this point when you were going through this?
I was still living with my mum's, but bless her, she didn't know she didn't know the entirety of it, because my little room was like a fucking hovel. It was everywhere, paraphernalia all over the gas, crack pipes, everything. It was, I think about it now and I go, oh God, how I'd hate to be back there.
Do you mind if I ask, when you first start doing a bit of Charlie in that or a pill or whatever, how does it evolve? Because that's like I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult because don't forget the environment we were in was conducive to partying and having fun, and it sort of heightened the experience. So that's how it worked. Going out, and don't forget the club scene was really our house music scene was taking off. So there was clubs every night. So you go out every night. Then every night there's promote, and it was busy and busier and busier and busier and busier. So there was no night you'd stay in. And then obviously I was living in Ibiza in the 90s with Alex. So you start off in the club scene, obviously start getting some traction.
Yeah.
And then what happens from there? Are you just working basically DJing every night in every club?
Night, and then obviously went to Ibiza, which was because Alex had built a club on the Space Terrace out there. Alex P, who was my DJ partner from back in the day. We're still very good friends to this day. So he sort of invited me out. I went anyway with someone else who was also doing a Ibiza trip, the first ever pilgrimage to Ibiza with partner with Scream, Loaded, Andy Weatherall, God rest his soul, Paul Oakenfold.
So these are big DJs at that time.
Yeah, massive.
So what, you all went for the first time together?
I didn't actually. I went on the reconnaissance mission to search out all the clubs with my friend Charlie Chester, who you may have not heard of. He's another big promoter back in the day, and to set it all up, and then didn't go back for the thing. But I went back on my own steam, and I met up with Alex. He said, "Come and DJ at Space."
What did you feel like? Obviously, we've both been to Ibiza. Probably like one of my favourite places on earth, right?
Without doubt.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
We've had some of our best nights there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's an incredible place that you can literally just go there and have the best nights of your life.
Oh, fuck off, mate. It's class.
I mean, it's an incredible place.
Try and play it down like that. But obviously, first time we went there, we didn't really know what to expect. And we've been to standard other party islands and raving in the UK.
Yeah.
We went there and we were like, this is a fucking different world.
It is a different world.
I was like, this is genuinely like,
you can't compare it, there was that time in the 90s when it was Ibiza, but we then on the back of Ibiza, because Space was the biggest club in the world. It was voted the best club many years
in the world.
Yeah. And myself and Alex were responsible for the Terrace, which was the first open air after hour party in the world, and that was ours. And that's what people went to Ibiza for. It started being the pilgrimage to Space, and to be the first DJs in that terrace was incredible, right?
The thing is, I've heard so much about Space from people that I know are older than me.
Yeah.
So I know how good it must have been in the time, because
and the open air, the terrace, not just Space the club as it was, because they shut the terrace over in 2000-ish, 2001, 2, I can't remember exactly, but the terrace was. That that experience you said when you go to other islands where it's just not exactly, you get off the plane in Ibiza and it's just like, it's a different energy.
It's a sense of freedom.
There's a sense, there's definitely an energy. It's because it's a volcanic island. It's also in the magnets of various places. Vedra, the rock, is a magnetic to the centre of the earth and all sorts of stuff. So
also, I think that the energy that flows through Ibiza is just because everybody there is for the same goal and that to have the best time.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's there for.
Yeah, there's like Italians there, girls from Spain, girls from everywhere.
I mean, listen, this is what I'm saying. The Space Terrace was culturally diverse world. People from all over the world used to come and party in this one place on a Sunday morning, and we was like, it was incredible.
How old were you at this time?
20. When was I? 21.
Oh my, yeah.
So you're still quite young as well. At that time, 21 to be
21, 22, I think was when I started. And so I lived in Ibiza for 6 years, pretty much. I mean, I'd come home for the winter and do gigs in London and then go back, but it didn't stop my use, let's say.
Would you say it propelled it?
Well, I mean, it just didn't help. It's not the easiest environment to stop in, but...
It's pretty much impossible, mate.
So basically, you know, it got towards the time when I was that ill, I was sent home from Ibiza. The one that some of the ill went, you got to go home, mate. You're just not looking good. It's you know, and everyone saw it. And it still took me another year to get myself into that headspace. And I was sitting in a hospital. This is the moment. This is the change moment. And I sat in a hospital and I was rocking backwards and forwards on the chair. So
just to confirm, they sent you back from like Ibiza, and then you've ended up sort of having to go to hospital because it's got that bad.
Yeah. So basically, it was, and I remember. So it was that year, '96. So I came home from Ibiza, still carried on for a bit. Then realised I was really, really ill, and I was just medicating to try and sort of stay alive. But then I'd sort of come to the mentality, or I think, well, you know what? If I'm going to go like this. And I didn't care.
So you
made that decision.
Did you accept death?
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. But then the pain was getting too much, and it was like every day I was in agony, literally agony. I'm talking about not the old age pains I get now, but I'm talking about excruciating
physical pain,
the whole of my body. Not because, don't forget, the anxiety and tension from what I realised was I was living in the fear of living without drugs. That's what my fear was. That's because it was so fearful for me. Anyway, I was sitting in that hospital, rocking backwards and forwards, and they were saying, Mr. Block, we can't do anything for you. You're your own time bomb, or we don't know. And I went, and then all of a sudden, this moment of clarity came. And I've never had, I had one before in India and Goa in like 20 years before or something, or 10 years before. And my brain just clunked. It went boom. And what it was I realised now, was it letting go of all the fear of everything. Just let go. And at a moment of clarity, I thought, I want to live. And that's it. And I've had enough of this life. And I stopped. I had one more session, and that was that weekend. I went
final session.
Yeah.
Well,
oh my God. I said I'm not going to do it, and I thought, well, anyway, that's the story. That was the biggest session I've ever had in my life.
Tell us about it.
I can't.
Okay, fair.
I was climbing windows, up tall buildings, all crazy. Anyway, listen, I came down. I went into the clinic on that. Literally that week, I had that moment of clarity and said, right, that's it. And this is what makes me look. I know now you can make a decision to change anything in your life. Yeah, it has to have passion. You have to have it has to have intention. There has to be something that's going to work for you. It has to be something, but it's doable. You have to find your passion in life, and generally you can do that by sitting down and doing the goal. I'll talk more about the goal mapping. This is going to go on for a bit of a while. I will cut it short. So briefly, everyone. Anyway, so I had this decision, and that was it. I'm gonna live. I'm gonna enjoy, and I'm gonna do it without drugs.
How old were you at that point?
30.
Okay, so
29, 30. Anyway, I remember around that. So 10 years I was at it, pretty much. Pretty powerful.
Can you tell us about one of the most iconic parties you had in terms of you DJing at an event during that 10-year period?
Well, I played at the Millennium Dome on the Millennium with Tiesto. Wow.
That's unbelievable.
55,000 people. Obviously playing at Space every Sunday was just incredible. But I think I've had gigs which have been incredible all over the world. And most of the DJs will tell you that. They can't pick one particular one. I mean, look, I'm talking about that because of the magnitude of it. Yeah. It was how big that was, that venue, 55,000 people, man. That's like old school festival style, isn't it?
100%. Do you think that, obviously from your perspective, I've only ever been on the other side of the DJ decks, but the energy is transferred?
Of course.
And obviously, we all know that, like, energy is,
If I'm having a good time and I'm seeing people having a good time, it works both ways. If I'm giving them a good time and I'm jumping around going, yeah, like, and then they're going, oh, yeah, you got.
But what's it like with 55,000 people there jumping up and down at you?
Because you're quite a way up. It's like a sea of heads. You can't really. But, you know, to get that vibe, it was incredible. It's a wonderful feeling. What can I tell you? Here's the thing. Who likes Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen?
To be fair, I wouldn't say I like it, but I watched the film and it was incredible. Right,
so there's a video you must watch on YouTube, but the Green Day Festival, Bohemian Rhapsody, right? And you can, if
it's on the film, I'm pretty sure it's on the film. I'm sure it's on the film. Is it the festival where there's just a sea of people? And
is that on the film?
That's
it. And they're singing. And you can't, there's no DJ. I mean, obviously, someone's filming it from the back of the stage. And it's one of those festivals, like 250,000 people in this field. And all you can see is like a bubble, but they're singing.
I've seen something similar with DMX.
Oh my God, it is so powerful. I love it. I'm just going, look at that, man. That is one music bringing people together.
Yeah, that's the most beautiful thing about music.
Yeah,
it brings everybody into the same.
So to answer your question, that's what it does. It brings people together and to a common ground where you can dance, let go of everything that's going on outside the world. We'll have a dance, sing some songs together, blah de blah.
Is that the best thing about being a DJ?
Yeah, I think so.
The fact that you can make people feel like that.
Yes, I think so. And it's become like that. And you know what? The other thing is you can feel the music. What I've noticed is more recently, in the last 10, 15 years, let's say, is I listen to the words of the songs and I sing them. And most of them are about love.
Yeah.
Most songs are about love. Don't sing the ones that ain't about love. And, you know, you sing the songs, you listen to the words, you think, oh, my God, look at these lyrics people write. They're so cool.
Yeah. Mate, do you know what? I understand exactly what you're talking about, because this is just a little bit off topic, but recently I've been moved at work and I'm sitting on, like, another table where the music is dictated by a couple of people there, and they listen to sad music, right? And this is no word of a lie. In the last 2 weeks, when I've been going to bed, I've been hearing the tunes, and it's like, since you've been gone, and I'm like, this is awful. Like it's such
but you know, I know the song. It's that's no, my life can take it. It's by
this one's like a emo song. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, regardless.
So is that a modern emo? I've not.
No, that I tell you what that is. I just remember that's Avril Lavigne.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh right, so it's a modern take on the now. But even those rock songs were powerful lyrics.
Yeah.
But it's sad songs. I mean,
they're sad. That's what it is. But when I listen to, if I look at my track list, they're like mostly like motivational entrepreneurship rap. That's mostly what I listen to.
Again, I think you should have experience of all types of music. Sad songs play their role hugely in the right place and the right time. Obviously, if you can listen to sad songs all day long, you may end up being sad.
Yeah.
But if you listen to, like, there's certain key songs that I listen to. If I need to have a cry and I'm a bit emotionally bound up, there's certain songs that I can play and I'll go, Joni Mitchell, Both Sides Now.
Tupac, Dear Mama, that's mine. What's yours?
I've got Netsky, I Refuse.
Right. So each one's had a song.
That's a great song.
And another one of mine is Born Free, about the lion.
Okay.
You don't know that one. So
I don't know.
It's by Matt Monroe, sorry. An old crooner, but a real cool song. Anyway, Born Free is about a lion. It's about a film about a lioness who overcomes adversity to become reintroduced into the wild again, and then comes back to the people who've introduced her to the wild, like 3 years later with kids, with the cubs and the pride leader. How she's getting me filled up now. Anyway, that song makes me cry from the bottom of my depths. And so sad song, but I get what you're saying. So I listen to the songs, the words, and it amazes me how people can write such incredible stuff and meaningful. And you know, you think, doesn't it? It comes from a place. You can't just sit down and write random words. It's got to be meaningful. And people think about this. How am I going to convey my love about this and my love about that? It's great, man.
Yeah, I think that is like everything music should be about, just expression. But I am actually interested. Obviously, during that 10-year spell, your music must have developed quite a lot, right?
I think developed. I mean, technology developed.
Okay.
So people were it made it easier to make records, obviously, electronically, because software was produced. And you didn't have to record it on tape and then re-record it. And, you know, live instruments, you have to do takes and takes, whereas electronic music, you can put it into beat, timed, stretched, pitched, blah, blah, add vocal samples, add whatever you want, which is how a lot of house music was made by an 808 drum machine, which was changed by the bass to acid. All them drum machines, all the samplers, all the synthesizers, all the equipment to make the mixing desks. So yeah, music changed because it was made more easily, and don't forget, people were looking for different things in music then. I think people, you know, they were waiting for the big breakdowns and the big piano riffs and the big vocal hooks and you know. But musically, what you'll find, and I'm sure it's true, it's come round again. Back to disco, back to soul and funk, and you know, people like Luther and younger people like yourselves. I can see, I play a lot of old disco remixes, and they're going off. Yeah, because people are going, "Oh, mum and dad please play." So the house music, the house music is also, they play classic house music. And people go, "Oh, mum and dad plays this, or mum and dad plays this, or mum and dad plays this." But now the disco's come back because it's all live, and you know. Live music is always great. So again, it's taken a lot. This circle has taken a lot longer to happen because it's like 35 years now since, you know, 88, when that was the whole, you know, the Ibiza and the house music thing really sort of kicked off, let's say. So yeah, I mean, you know.
So Brandon, after that, I almost want to call it an epiphany moment that you had. What actually happened to you? Where did you go?
So I survived. Obviously, I got into doing some work on my. I think just naturally I started working on myself, realizing how I reacted emotionally and spiritually, and you become aware of what triggers you and what triggers emotional stuff inside you, and just learn to live life again. You've got to learn to live life. You've got to learn life. You can't just go into it, because I'd literally not learned anything for those years I'd been involved in that stuff. So the next 10 years I had to rebuild in my life and rebuilding.
And were you DJing though?
Yeah, touch wood. I went straight back to it. I straight back into the Lion's Den.
But how was it DJing without doing the drugs?
Yeah, because like
as I said, I found passion in the music again, in the songs, in the words. In the immersive experience of that, I immersed myself more in that than I did in the other stuff.
So you're almost DJing for the love of the music rather than for the love of the party.
I mean, not that I didn't love my music then, I did, but it just came along with the other stuff. Whereas this stuff now, I've got my music, I'm playing it, and I'm doing it because look, I've always loved it, but I'm doing it more because I'm loving that only.
How hard was it to like go back into like probably one of the most difficult environments to like come off of all the stuff?
I never had that doubt in my mind.
You had made that penultimate decision.
I knew I had no desire to go back. It was too fearful. The place I ended up was so horrific.
How close did you come to dying?
To my demise. Yeah. Well, I went to look. This is my mentor now, and my life, my saviour is a guy called Dr. William Shanahan. He's my psychiatrist at the time. He's quoted in my book, and he's a specialist in addiction. He used to be the head consultant for the Charter Nightingale Hospital in London, which was the foremost mental health addiction hospital at the time. I'm talking about 35 years ago. So they had different floors for people who were suicidal, people who were, you know, struggling with mental illness, people who were struggling with addiction and drug and alcohol stuff. So he was the boss of that whole thing. And he took me under, and he said that I was his star pupil, because I never relapsed. I never went back out and did it again, because I got to a place that my decision was so, I have no intention of, I never want to feel that way again. It was so strong, because I was in such a horrible place. I can't describe how bad. So I'm not glamorising by any means. My time I had was great until it got bad, and then it got bad, really bad, and worse and worse and worse. So I'm very grateful for him, because he said, look, if you come in here Monday, I can save your life. He said, if you don't, I don't know how long you'll last. And I was sitting in his leather couch, which was double the size of that in Harley Street in London. And he said, you went from there to that end, to that end, to that end, to that end, just because I was like a jack in the box. So I don't think I in a way, I suppose, I don't think I had that struggle. Am I going to do that? Am I going to do that? I've got to be where, no, because it was just uncomfortable because of the anxiety and the triggers which were happening constantly. You can imagine, and people going, oh yeah, look, I'm going, ooh.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, like, overwhelming. Well, I just got overwhelmed with anxiety and fear because it just, this was my fight or flight. I had flight. I didn't have fight. I just froze. Let's say, oh, get away. I don't want any of it. And that's how I did it. And that's what happened to me. So and it worked, you know, touch wood. And so that leads me to believe that it's possible to do that anywhere.
Yeah.
And still go back and face, you know, to be able to go into that environment and not.
That's what I mean. It's huge because, like, I'm not sure on it, but like from my perspective, it would be like the last place you should go is back into the environment where it's that available. Does that make sense?
That's the suggested.
That's route. That's what I would have like thought logically.
But then I wasn't going to turn around and say I don't love my music.
Yeah. The love for the music was more.
I'm a DJ.
Yeah, so
it's almost like playing my music.
It's almost like that was the best place for you to go back to.
Well, I mean, otherwise I could have ended up going, oh, I'll never go in there again.
Yeah.
And at which point, where am I going to end up? Who knows? Whether that would have been a move or not. It wasn't what I chose. I chose to face, maybe that was my stubbornness, maybe that was my create that nutter bastard I created.
Yeah.
I'm going to fucking go back in there. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to.
Yeah, I fucking rate it, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I genuinely really rate it.
It's actually incredibly impressive.
So, yeah.
So after those 10 years, obviously you're DJing. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're DJing.
Right, so yeah, after those 10 years, sorry, mate, this is, oh, God. Moving forward, and I think every human has an innate giving back and empathy for your fellow human. We like connection, we like this. And I sort of, after the 10 years, I was sort of bubbling around. I'm not feeling completely full or fulfilled. And I'm thinking, well, so I met a friend who said, well, you know, you've got a great experience. You could share that in a drug and alcohol field. And I said, okay, I'll come and volunteer, which I did. I went to work in a local drug and alcohol agency.
Whilst DJing?
Still DJing.
Yeah.
In London. My friend ran it. Her name's Katie, and I owe her for giving me the chance. I walked in there going, I know everything about it. She went, oh, it don't work like that, mate. You have to learn. You have to learn stuff. And I go, oh my God, learn? I've not been in school I never learned at school when I was there. So I went on from training courses, ended up going to City and Guilds in health and social care, pathway to drugs MVQ, level 3. I've done a smart recovery, which I don't know if you've heard of. Smart recovery is a model of how to change behaviours, thinking, routines, rational thoughts, irrational thinking. I'm a trainer, champion. I've just been asked to be an ambassador for that new charity, which has now been reinvented. It was like the alternative to 12-step, right? Which I don't know if you're aware of or not. So that, I'm a goal mapping practitioner. I've done various life skill trainings at the job. So I worked, and I had, because obviously I was still DJing and quite, say, famous. I'm not saying, quite well known, all right? A lot of the people I met had come from that background. So the fact that I was talking to them about what my, and trying to help them with their journey, it helped.
How big is that issue within like DJing? Because like it is.
For DJs,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the loop anymore. I know a lot of people. I've spoken to a lot of friends, peers of mine who have had struggles. There's a lot of help out there now, so I wouldn't know. I mean, I've never actually put myself out to be. I have, but in a subtle way. I'm not like on Instagram. I can if I want to. I've got tools and I've got a program I can deliver to people. But people come to me just because we know each other and struggling, and can I talk to you? And I said, of course, come on. So I run a few groups online in WhatsApp. We just support each other, and it's somewhere to go if God forbid, someone's struggling, they can reach out and it's there. They don't have to necessarily go on the phone and do some searching on Google. So I think, and then obviously I worked in that environment for a long, long time. Then I went to the NHS. This is how it all maps in now. So then I went to the NHS after that.
By the way, I think that's class, the community stuff, and like being there for people, and also like I like the way you've approached it without making it like some people make it about them, right? Rather than actually the support you offer. So I think that's commendable, 100%. But obviously, whilst you're doing this, does the DJing take sort of a back seat? Is that more the focal point during that period of your life?
I think that was the natural progression anyway. I think, look, there's a lot of people. So if this is only me again saying, to be a success, and I say successful, what would we call success? To be a prominent, should we say, DJ?
Yeah.
You need to be producing music now, because it's very difficult to say, I'm a great DJ, here's my tape, or here's my MP3 mix, have a listen, can you put me on? If you're not in the world of putting yourself out there, people ain't gonna know about you.
Yeah.
I know how it works. So on social media, you've got to be continually, like on Traxsource or Beatport, where people download music. You've got to be consistent. You've got to be releasing music often, like Camel Fat, for instance, or people producers, lots of big producers now who are putting music out. Once your name's out there, you've got a great big hit record. The next it becomes, and then you get your whatever you're aiming for, your success as a DJ. Sorry, I lost track again.
So no, it's fine. I'm with you. I get exactly what you're saying. So at that point, had you stopped producing and releasing music?
So I had the Top of the Pops thing.
Yeah.
We got an album advance. We built a studio, but then our passions wavered a bit, and then the technological. It was more about the saturation, as opposed to like often, not the doing it often, not just so they doing it less often. So yeah, I'm obviously realizing my passion to help people, so that's becoming more prominent in my life. Let's say I'm still very grateful, and I still DJ most weekends. But I still help people, and I'm down here creating more. We've got some more community stuff coming on down here, which is great. And who knows what's gonna? But I'm excited about it because I've had some time down. So yeah, I suppose those 10 years I did more work on myself, and I did more work with people and the community. And then, as I said, I went to work for the NHS. Then the Big Brother thing, and then after Big Brother, then the charity stuff we do now, which is my Happy Days charity, which is now under a rebrand. What happened was, on the end of Tony Robbins, the event, I came back and I thought I got immersed in talking to people and getting involved in that world, and I met lots of friends who are really big in the personal development world, and we decided, and I thought, what's the easiest way to help people on a daily basis who are struggling? And for me, it was just about changing a small behaviour each day. Doesn't have to be anything massive, doesn't have to be something that you're concerned about, just to make that small change. And over time, you resonate at different, you start thinking, oh, I've achieved a goal, I've achieved it. And you make that habit, that's a better habit, you start resonating at a better level, slightly happier. Not saying you're going to be ecstatic all day long or anything like that, but generally you function on a better level. And that's what we did. I started doing Facebook Live videos with, like these podcasts, with people who've had incredible experiences. That was really well received. We used to post affirmations every day, blah, de blah. It was a really nice thing. We're trying to rebrand it at the moment, because obviously during the last 3 or 4 years, things were different. People weren't able to invest themselves because they were struggling to live, let alone, empower themselves. So that was, and then now, as I mentioned, the smart recovery thing, I've got the goal mapping practitioner stuff. I've got this other stuff working with my friend Lane and Hot Radios, the community radio station in Bournemouth, who we're trying to bring everything together again now. And one of my things I like doing is, because I've met many, many people, I'm very fortunate to have met a load of diverse set of people in my life, is bringing them together, their skill sets. So I know certain things will work with certain people, and if I can help people to get them together, that's what I like doing.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how like the incremental changes are like developments of like your journey? So like, for example, the music, going through trials and tribulations with your own addiction, to then being involved in the personal development world, to the NHS, to the community development. But like, it's just weird how it layers and layers and layers, and just one, like we had someone on the podcast talk about pulling a thread.
Yeah.
And like when you pull a thread, it just keeps going and going. Yeah.
It's like that unraveling or raveling up or.
And I'm obviously interested, like, it's a bit of a loose question, but that almost seemed like it was mapped out in terms of like the development and how it would develop. Are you spiritual at all, or do you have any sort of like perception of like manifestation, or like what where's your head at with it?
I mean, I think with regards to you know the secret, then obviously,
of course.
Right? So, see, this is why the goal mapping really makes sense when we regard to manifestation, right? I believe what it is you think about something enough, or you want something enough without, if you program that enough and you say manifest, so that's constantly, let's say, not obsessive, that's the wrong word, but, you know, mindful of that, you'll do it, right? So I'm not saying, oh, I want £1 million of the lottery, I want £1 million, it's going to happen, right? And I'm saying that's not manifesting, that's just wishing and hopefully something lucky happens. But, so for instance, I want a business in podcasting. I'm doing the work, I can see it, I've got the vision, I'm thinking about it often, I'm contacting other people. Slowly, you're manifesting your podcast, right? So yes, it's manifesting, but it's also doing the work to make it happen. So I think when you're passionate about something and you write the plan and you're picturing it and visualizing it and you're doing the work, it will appear to be manifesting. It will be happening. It will be doing. You'll be, you know, so that's why the goal mapping is really powerful.
So were you conscious within the last, 10 years or that period that was the evolution of, yourself and where you wanted to go?
No. It sounds like I only had a plan when I wrote it down. I only had the plan and that vision when I had never goal mapped. So when I did the goal map with my mate Brian, who runs it, who had an epiphany himself, I'd love to tell you his story one day, because it's probably going to be too long. But he had I can't tell you. You can cut it. Look, if you've got to edit it,
mate,
I get it.
No, as long as it goes, mate. It don't bother us.
Okay, so I hope everyone's not bored. Anyway, so Brian had this epiphany. He was a club owner in the Isle of Wight, the youngest licensee in the country. This is before easy travel to Spain was available. So people used to go to the Isle of Wight on holiday, like he used to come to Bournemouth, right? And he used to own a nightclub. He got very successful. He married Miss World at the time. He had a Ferrari.
Unbelievable.
He then lost everything due to his behaviours and the lifestyle, and then obviously Freddie Laker, and you won't know, but he created the cheap flights to Spain, and this is early 70s, mid 70s, early 80s, which, Spain travel was, we're going to Spain, it was like a thing. So his tourism went, because everyone went away. So he lost, and he was having this, there's a guy called Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, right? If you're in that world, you'll know it. So he was one of his mentors, and he'll tell you his journey. And he came up with this program, this goal mapping thing, and he's been working on it ever since. And he taught it to me because I'd been to DJ for him in the Isle of Wight. He couldn't remember when, nor could I, because we was 7 shows drunk to the wind or whatever. But he said that please come and do my practitioner's course, and I did it, and I went. And I thought, oh my God, this is what I've been missing. This is what I needed, right? So after that episode of the burnout and the coming back in to find myself in the world of persevering, where do I go from now? Where do I place myself? Who am I? Blah, blah, blah. And I saw it. I thought, oh man, I love this whole thing, how it works. And ended up being a practitioner, and I'm an advocate for goal mapping all day long. And I'm about to do one, because I've moved house and I moved down here. So now, next couple of weeks, I'm going to do my new goal map. I can teach it to people, and I can do a quick version. It's great. So, so that's that. So now, but now I'm also taking a little bit of a downtime still. I'm going to live life at a slower pace. So I'm not picturing any massive goals or any achievements. I've done most of that stuff. I've sort of got to say to myself, you've done all right, mate. It's okay to chill out a bit. what else? What do I need to be aspiring to now that I've not already had? And am I doing it for the right reasons? So, do I want a massive successful company? What for? What am I? What's my goal here? I've got to ask myself that all the time. So, and it's difficult to let go of and just chill.
Yeah, I can't do it. I don't know if it's an age thing.
I think it's an age thing. Yeah. And I think it's the environment you younger people live in. You know, you look, and don't tell me you're not on social media a lot. I'm sure you are. TikTok, you've just said. So you're going to be, in a way, although you're mindful and aware of how it impacts on you, which is great. You need to be doing that. You've got to make sure you're not getting overwhelmed and too immersed in, you know, comparing. But this is the way the world works.
It is. That's the way the world is now. We have frequent conversations. So I know I mentioned earlier I'm not on TikTok, but obviously I use Instagram and all other sort of social platforms. But me and Jack frequently go on a like we ban ourselves from it for, you know, like a month. I think you've actually banned yourself at the moment from Instagram.
No, I don't have Instagram on my phone.
That's it.
I have it on my desktop because then when I use it, it's not frequent, and when I use it on the desktop,
use it for the right reasons.
Exactly that.
I say that, but do you know what I mean? I still look at people's stories and stuff like that. But I like to be in the loop a little bit. Not
I suppose
as much.
that's about ticking the right people's stories, isn't it? And then the stuff you get is pertinent to what you want. But I haven't had Facebook on my phone for 4 years, right? And I rarely look at it on my laptop. I do occasionally, only to reply to a message or two. I've got the messenger, but I don't look at that. Instagram, I do because I can share a post when people say, "Can you share this?" And what's that? I go, so I share it straight away. I don't sit and scroll. I realised what was going on for me.
Yeah.
I thought, God, this is affecting me. This is all them years ago. I was going, God, I'm getting so affected by this. You know, like, so I'd do a post and there would be an orange, angry face. I go, what's that about?
Yeah.
Oh, God. And what does it matter now? I think to myself, well, what does it matter now?
Who cares?
I thought to myself, yeah, exactly. I thought, just stop it, man. So, and do I miss it? No. And it's not, and maybe it has affected some of my interaction, but I'm not overly concerned.
Yeah.
I prefer to be where I am now, calmer, in touch with the world sort of thing, and, being able to sit here with you on a Saturday morning, which,
being in touch with the real world rather than a virtual world.
Experiencing stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. And also, like, you've been through the journey of the highs and the lows with the DJing as well, especially from what you've said today with, the interaction perspective. It's like, you have done it all. Do you know what I mean? You have played at Space. You have played at Wembley Stadium in front of 55,000 people. Like, you've been there, done it. So, like, I can see why now you're like, I want to take a step back. I want to relax. I want to work on myself a bit more.
Well, I just want to enjoy. I want to live in the life.
Yeah.
Live in the moment,
live
maybe.
In the moment.
And like, it took a lot to come from London and learn to live in this like slower pace, and it is slower.
It's well slow, yeah.
So that's taken a long time to sort of adjust to, but I love it. And I go back to London to see my mum, and I see friends, and I love seeing them. Don't get me wrong, but as soon as I hit that M25 and the traffic starts, and then there's roadworks, and there's traffic lights, and there's 20 mile an hour this, and 20 mile an hour there, and 20 mile an hour, and so many people, and so much traffic, and so many. I just, oh my God, get me out! I can't. And as soon as I hit the M3, I think, oh man, yeah,
chilled, relaxed.
And then the Bournemouth sign, welcome to Bournemouth, the blue sign. I go, oh, there's the sea, there's the beach.
But do you think that you would be able to appreciate it as much as you do now if you hadn't have lived the previous life? I say previous life, but the DJ
if I'd have grown up in Bournemouth, then I would have probably just been attuned to this life. So I can appreciate it now because I know the rat race or the fast living pace that I wanted to get away from, and how fast it still is, and how much faster it's getting because of people wanting to catch up, and people want, there's so many factors going on now, which people have to be mindful of. Look, I'm gonna round it off soon because
sure.
Well, let's round it off on a couple of questions like we usually do, because you are sort of up to date with where we're at now.
Yeah, go on, carry on.
So you mentioned about your goals and you mentioned about moving forward. What is next in the chapter for you as an individual rather than the DJ? Right.
So I mean, I've got some projects which we're working on musically as well. I mean, look, we've got Sobo Beach, which we've done some gigs down at. Sobo Beach? So
Right.
the beach at Southbourne, which used to be Bistro on the beach,
Okay.
there's a lovely Miami's type bar there now.
I know, yeah.
Right, so I've been doing gigs there. We've done some really nice New Year's Day. Have you heard of Bump and Hustle?
Yeah.
So Bump and Hustle.
My mum goes to it.
Right, so there you go. So Bump and Hustle, we've been doing Bump and Hustle gigs. Hush Club,
Yeah.
Simon's come down from Hush Club to do stuff there. So we're doing little projects there. As I said, next year I don't know. This year I don't know how clubs are going to evolve or what's going to happen. Community projects are coming. They just happen to be coming into me at the moment. It's something I love. Something I'm happy to be involved in. Because for me as well, I need motivation. I'm very difficult to motivate myself. Like I know I can see you two. We've all got. I've got jogging bottoms on, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. And the lads have got the cool Nike tight fit workout gym clothes on. I look like Onslow from Keeping Up Appearances. Anyway, so I find it hard to motivate myself at the moment. So and I know the younger generation is about appearances, looking good, and what's the word? Hench. Is it hench? Right, anyway.
I think the young generation, that there is something that can be said for that, but I think there's also the other side of it where it's just being healthy. To be fair, not necessarily being hench muscly.
Yeah, and the message is that a lot of younger people are getting healthy and being healthy for their minds as well, which is great. And not getting consumed or in the world, that's because they can see it and hopefully they've got the awareness because they can see it happening, and because they're aware and you lot are aware, you go, you know what? I'm going to stay away from that because that's not good for me. And why not be healthy mentally from a young age? It's great. I wish we didn't have that then, but I mean we weren't aware of unhealthy minds. We were just
What you don't know, mate.
No, exactly. And I think because when you know something, it's like hard, what they say, it's hard to unlearn, isn't it?
Yeah.
So once you're told something, you go, okay, I can. What do I do with that? Do I forget it? Do I put it in the back of my mind? Like if you use NLP, you can probably get rid of it and twist it up and flick it off. But it's difficult because you've planted the seed. So I think the fact that everyone's got the opportunity now to be healthy mind-wise, be healthy physically, that's the way forward now. I mean, more so than it has been in the past.
Yeah, it's a lot more prominent nowadays.
Yeah.
I just want to leave it on someone as well, Brandon. Do you have any regrets whatsoever? Because you've lived a mad lifestyle. You've done you've done a lot of things that a lot of young people probably would like to do or imagine they want to do.
I mean, look, as I said, the only regret is that I made myself that ill. That I had to have parts of my body removed because they were damaged, which I have. I've had half a lung removed. I'm very fortunate and grateful to be as fairly healthy as I am. I mean, the body's such a resilient tool. I don't have regrets, but I just think everyone who's listening, you have a choice now. You could be mindful. You have an awareness, and I think that's the whole point about putting podcasts out. This is one thing I've learned. If let's say people who haven't had a touch on any of this, they're the ones that I feel I have an empathy for, because without those tools, when stress comes, it's really hard to deal with. So when you have some tools or an awareness of how life is impacting on you, you can do something about it. But the other thing is there's a downside to being aware, right? Once you're started, there's no turning back.
Don't look under the mat. You ain't going back, are you?
There's no, so once you've started on this journey of being aware of your thinking and being aware of how you behave and all that stuff, you're not going to just stop doing that. So it is a thing, but what happens is, and what I've realised is, your mind will start, that will become your normal behaviours, and it won't be, I've got to be mindful of how I'm thinking now, because you'll just think better.
Yeah.
Think your best, this is what I say in goal mapping, think your best thoughts.
I think that's the best thing about being aware, though, is that once you do go down that path, it's really hard to go back.
Well, you can't go back.
Yeah, it's the best thing about it.
Yeah, and that's like it's like so. For instance, if you're on a journey of starting, like say, journey of recovery in, like say, drugs. Say just for instance, drugs, alcohol, whatever it may be, gambling, any type of bad behaviour you're in or bad behaviour cycle. There's a very old tool we use in the drug world called let's say substance abuse world. It's probably for gambling. It's definitely for gambling as well. It's called the cycle of change, and it's about what we're talking about. Habit change, right? Once you start, let's say for instance, okay, so you're gambling and you're using fruit machines often, and then you have a big loss. You think, oh God, I didn't want to use that money. Right, I wasn't my plan. You know, you ever guys, I'll just get a bit more, and while I'm winning, I just might as well top it up, and then all of a sudden you lose a lot. You go, oh. So you're on the back foot. So once that initial seed starts, that is now you're in a phase of contemplation. Well, you're not, but you will be once you go. Because next time you go, think, oh, if I do that again, is that going to happen again? So you've started that process. That makes sense.
Yeah.
As opposed to not being oblivious to everything. Pre-contemplation, not caring about anything. One loss, one loss. Big loss. Then there's a start of the process. So you'll never go back to before that process started, because you won't unthink that. You won't unthink that loss. Do you make sense?
Yeah.
So then you have a battle going on. The battle starts. Do I stop? When do I stop? How do I stop? Blah, blah, blah. Before it gets really bad, before it gets like, drugs or alcohol, whatever it is, where do I stop? You stop when it gets that bad, like I did. Fingers crossed. I hope so. God willing, I hope that happens, because, sometimes it doesn't. You go over the edge. I was so fortunate that I managed to stop then, because, as I said, who knows? But that's the process, isn't it? So it's having that awareness. So you can never unthink that. Always on that journey. Then you look at the guilt, the shame, the the self-loathing, the all this stuff. I went through it all, mate. I went through a whole lot of that stuff, and still have moments of you're not good enough. Oh God, you have a go at yourself. You're in a critic, and always be there. If you're in a child, it's the nurturing, isn't it? When if you notice yourself going, when you get a bit of entitlement.
Yeah.
I should be allowed to do. It's a little boy going, I'm misbehaving myself. I want my sweeties or whatever, So it's just learning to live with all that stuff. But as I said, you can't. Once you're in that mark, you won't unlearn it. But what happens is you'll just adapt to live with it, and it's good because now that certain stressors may not have the impact, so you can nip it in the bud and go, right, I've no need to get stressed like that now, because I know that's not. I've done it before, and all I do is release cortisol and get myself well wound up, whereas I don't need to do that now. One more thing, just before we go. I told you about my heart condition.
Yep.
I know it was triggered by my thinking. It's gone back into beat on its own by me stop stressing about it.
So just a bit of context you were telling us about on the way here.
The subconscious, how powerful the mind is. Everyone who's listening, be aware of your mind. It is the most powerful computer and system management on this planet we know of.
Mm-hmm.
Just be kind to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or else it will come and bite you on the arse.
I think that's a beautiful thing to leave it on. I just want to say thanks so much for coming down.
It's a pleasure.
I think you're spreading an amazing message.
Hero, mate.
Yeah, you're doing amazing things. I really, really appreciate it, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this chat.
Yeah,
it's gone so quick, and I'm really appreciative of your time. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone out there. But listen, by the way, everyone, if you're listening and you're struggling, reach out. We're here. You can find me. You can find any organisation to help, but don't be bad about it, because no one does anymore. It's not a thing. Just reach out, say hello, I need help. As I say, I run groups. We can, if anyone needs help, get in touch with you, pass it on. We can signpost, we can put me in touch with people. There's a massive world of help out there, so just don't suffer in silence.
Cool.
For sure, yeah, love it, mate. Let's leave it on that.